I gotta get a roof on this thing. In case you've missed it, I designed and have been building this pool house over the last couple of months. And it's actually worked out really well, way better than I expected, given that I don't really know what I'm doing. How do I do this? Huh. This is by far the biggest thing I've ever built. And so I've been learning just what I need to do the next step all along the way. And it's actually worked out pretty well. But the next thing is both the scariest and the most exciting part. It's exciting because it's new. I've never done a metal roof before, so I think it's something cool to learn. But it's scary because I've never done a metal roof before and I feel like I don't know all the parts. Truth be told, I've done a ton of research on this. Lots of videos, lots of articles about the order of operations and the pieces that you need to put on the roof correctly. And it all starts with the drip edge. This is absolutely the first step, the thing that has to go underneath everything else. Now past this, I'm not really sure, but we can start here. This shorter piece has to slide over the piece that I already put up there. So this little crimp down here, I have to open that up with a blade, and then I have to notch the other piece so that they can overlap and so no water gets in between them. I know that that is the first thing to go down. And I know that you need to tape it so that water will go over the tape and then off the edge. Past that, I'm not really sure what's next. So depending on where you live, what kind of roof you built, what kind of roofing material you want to use, which tutorial you watched, the next steps are different. And I did a lot of research and I still couldn't figure out exactly which one is next. So I'm just gonna pick one. Truth is, I'm afraid I'm gonna do this wrong. I've done a ton of research and I found people do things different ways. And I don't know that they're right or wrong, they're just different, but I just kind of don't want to screw it up. Because if I mess up the roof, it's gonna mess up everything else that I've built before then. And everything I've done before this is similar to stuff I've done before, but the roofing, 100% new. Some people at this point go ahead and put a rake edge, which is like a drip edge, but they put it along this slope to make sure that water comes off the side and does not run down on your fascia board so that it'll rot. But the type of trim that I'm gonna be putting around the outside, I don't think calls for that. So for now, I'm just gonna skip it and go straight to the roofing. This is the metal I'm gonna use. It's called standing seam steel. Let me show you the profile. So on this end, it has a flange with a bunch of holes in it. That's so you can put in the screws. Then it has this little raised part. And then on the other end, it has a taller raised part that snaps over this, covering up the fasteners of the previous row. I think it's pretty easy to put on. You just gotta make sure that it's the right length and that it's square to the roof. But speaking of the right length, my roof panels are not the right length. Let me tell you why. A long time ago, I ordered 10-foot sections of standing seam steel. Now, unfortunately, that project never happened, but I still have the steel. Those pieces are too long for the short roof and too short for the long roof. So I'm gonna have to cut them. Now, because I've never done this before, I decided to start with the short roof. I think it'll be easier to handle, and you won't see it as much, so if I make a mistake, it'll be kind of more hidden. I think this is pretty straightforward. So you've got a flange over here where you put in screws to hold this side down. This side will be loose for now until trim comes over and locks it together. But the next piece will snap on this little ridge right here, lay out this way, and then you put in another row of screws, then you snap on the next piece, and you keep moving that direction. You know, it's funny, I remember complaining about how hot it was when I was working on this shed, and right now it's 33 degrees, and my hands hurt a lot, and it's really hard just to rip off the protective plastic on this stuff. So this goes on top of there. Once you get it all lined up, I think you just bang on it. Oh, look at that. It snaps right on. Huh. That was pretty easy. I was able to get the metal on the roof, and then it snowed. Not a whole lot of snow, but there is a layer of ice and snow on here that I've got to get off before I can safely get up there and do any more work. Finally at a point where it stopped raining and snowing long enough for me to work. It's just been too slick up there to be up there. But that actually made me think about something. When you're planning a project like this that spans weeks or months, there's a bunch of stages that you have to think about where they're gonna be in time when you get to them. Like for instance, I was sweating like crazy when I was doing the framing. Now, it's snowing and raining when I'm doing the roofing. Sweating is not really that bad, but falling off a roof because it's slick or covered in ice, that is bad. So I should have probably planned to start this entire thing maybe a month earlier, and then this really wouldn't have been an issue. But anyway, the metal roofing is in place, which means now we can move on to the trim. And honestly, the trim is the confusing part for me. There's different names for all of the different pieces on different sides and how they overlap, and so I get a little bit confused. And how to get all the pieces to connect to each other and overlap correctly is still pretty unknown to me. But the piece we're gonna start with is this. It's called a gable end, I think. And it wraps over the top, over the side, and it goes down the slope of the roof. And the only thing about this piece that's actually difficult is that you have to transition it at the bottom of the roof and at the top of the roof in different ways. And I don't know how to do either one of them. This video is sponsored by PCBWay, which is your one-stop service provider for all sorts of stuff. Basically, you design something and upload a file, and then they can make it, whether it's injection molding, sheet metal fabrication, CNC machining, PCBs, or 3D printing. Now check this out. This piece is 3D printed, and it's so clear that I can actually shoot the video through it, which is crazy. This is not something that I have capability to do on my own, but I had a friend who needed this part. So I designed it in Fusion and then had it made with PCBWay. It's actually really crazy, and I did not expect it to be this clear, but it's pretty fantastic. All of their services are available through PCBWay.com. And on the website, you can choose from all the different materials they support, the different types of work that they can do, and they've got a great approval process. You upload your files, they send you a proof of it, you get to approve it before anything is made, and then it gets shipped to you. And this is a great option for makers like us who just need 1 or 2 of something, or a company that needs 10,000 of something. It's pretty amazing what they can do, and this is proof. You should definitely go check them out. Go to PCBWay.com and then use the code PCBWay-ILTMS10, which is long, but it's right here on the screen, and that's gonna give you $10 off your first order of over $30. We'll put a link to them down in the description. Be sure to go check them out, and huge thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video and for these awesome parts. So now I've got these pieces so that I can bend them over the metal roof on the end, making all the water come off the edge rather than go underneath. But before I do that, I actually have to take this piece off and put on something called butyl tape. Butyl tape is kind of hard to describe. It's a non-drying tape that you put in between 2 pieces of metal to seal up the gap. So you put it on metal buildings, metal roofs, or whatever, and it stops water and air from being able to pass in between the 2 pieces. It's like sticky, but not sticky at the same time. Basically, you just want to be careful getting it into place and then squish the stuff around it and then don't touch it anymore. And that'll be easier to do without gloves. Did I mention it's cold out here? So this piece has to be able to cut so that it can fold around this outside edge and then down, and then I'll have to put another piece here that can overlap that and connect to this sidewall. It's a little confusing. So this is difficult for several reasons, but one of which is that all of this material is really slick, so nothing wants to stay in its place. It's cold, my fingers hurt. But also just holding something where you want it and then marking it at the same time is difficult. This is one of those places where having at least 2 people would definitely be faster, easier, or just have somebody else do it. That'd be kind of cool too, but here I am. Oh, get up there. So this piece is gonna get folded in. Has to go that. Gosh. I don't think I like this type of work. Oh, it went down too far. So that. This is gonna get covered by the next piece that's up here. So I don't really need to have a whole lot of overlap because it's gonna get overlapped. And I know all the roofers that are watching this are like disgusted and laughing at me. Sorry. This stuff is repositionable, I guess, but still don't really want to have to mess with it any more than absolutely necessary. I want it to be waterproof. Trying to make sure I get it right the first time when I lay the piece down. Ah! I think I did. So now, then these pieces, they're wrapped around. Hey, look at that. It worked. There are little flat crimper tools that you can like create a flange. You can grab an edge and fold it all at one time. It's like a mini hand brake kind of thing. And I actually have those, but they're not here. They're out at the farm. So that needs to go down to there, and this whole thing needs to fold up under. Okay, so it's not great, but I did learn enough that I think when I do the other side of this one, it'll be better. And this is on the back of the building, facing nothing, so it's okay that this one doesn't look great. But regardless of whether it looks good or not, it's gonna serve its purpose. It's gonna keep water from going underneath the metal roof and run it off the side and run it down here, so that's a good thing. Now, I do have some screws on the outside of this, which are temporary, and I wanted to point that out because eventually fascia material is gonna have to come up underneath here, underneath this piece, and so those screws will go back in after that fascia is in place, but we're not there yet. I am gonna finish screwing the top side, and then I'll do the other side off camera. It's so cold. So the gable trim on both sides is done, and it's fine. It looks all right. But the next thing is a piece of end wall flashing, and this goes from the little vertical section of wall right here, transitioning down onto the roof. The part that's on the wall will end up being covered by the siding later on, but it's like the last piece of this section other than the eaves. And luckily, all you have to do is nail it to the wall. This stuff probably comes in several angle versions. I could only find a couple, and none of them matched the angle that I had, so I figured I could bend it. It's such a long piece that it's kind of hard to bend. It's also worth pointing out that if you're going to be doing a bunch of your own roofing and you need flashing like this bent specifically, you can actually rent an 8-foot or 10-foot or 12-foot break and bring it to your place, and that's how normal roofing companies make this stuff to fit every single time. Hey, that's pretty good. We're just gonna figure out how to hold it in place while I hammer it and not fall off the roof. Okay, this is a big pain. I think the thing to do is to actually use screws to easily put it in place and then come back and nail it so that it's flat, then take the screws out and put nails in their place. Now theoretically you could use a screw to put in that flashing, but you don't want the head of the screw to be in the way of the siding that's going to come on it later. So you could use a screw that has a countersink. You think you could push this in all the way flat with the surface, but pushing that in is actually going to deform the metal around it, which is going to cause another set of problems. So you do have options here, but that is just so flat that this is absolutely the way to do it. So the screw definitely helped. That was easier to put up just having something to hold it in place. I don't know if it's strictly necessary, but at this point I'm just kind of trying to do everything I can to keep water out of all the places. And so I think I'm going to take another row of this flashing tape and run over the top of this, connecting this piece of flashing to the wood beneath it, and then eventually it's all going to get covered in siding. Now the next thing to go on is fascia. Now this is something that covers up the wood here, the big 2x8s. And I guess you could put this on first, but I've seen it done both ways, so I don't really know. Either way, it goes on the surface and then tucks up underneath all the things that we've already put on. And I think you just have to fold the corners in and trim them out nicely, and otherwise it's pretty easy, I think. I say easy, but the material is very floppy. It doesn't have much structure to it. The pieces are long, and you have to hold them overhead and nail it in with really tiny nails. So maybe not easy. I folded over this first end so that it can go around this corner. Theoretically, I should be able to just slide this thing up underneath the drip edge. And it might be tight enough to hold it in place while I get the nails. And it might not. Ooh. All right. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's awesome. It's gonna look like that. And it's tight enough I don't have to hold it. Now I can go ahead and start nailing this in from the outside using these really tiny little finishing nails, but this bottom edge that wraps around does not go up onto the wood. It actually needs to hang down about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, because it's a holder for the soffit material that's gonna come in. It like slides in like this and is held on top of this piece. So as I'm putting this in, I've got a spacer and I need to make sure that that spacer can fit in there before I nail it in from the outside. These nails are tiny and black and made of stainless steel because they do get exposed to the elements on the outside of the fascia. It's not perfect. It's maybe not even good, but it is covered in metal. I learned a huge amount doing the corners, did some stuff wrong, tried to make it better. But regardless, this was the easy part. Next, I have to do the hard part. Forgot that I bought something. I got this attachment to go on an impact driver, and it just is the snipper part, and it uses the impact driver as the way to make the snipper happen. It's like pretty cheap, but I think it'll make stuff like this way easier. Oh, that's amazing. This is the last piece. I can honestly say, I don't remember the last time I was so ready for something to be done, but it's finally done. The weather definitely had something to do with this. I mean, it's been hard to be out here and work on this, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And all of those things together has made this the least enjoyable part of this whole process. But I will say that the more I did on this, the more I started to understand how to overlap the pieces, how to cut them the way that I actually wanted them to be, and it did get better. So this being my first attempt, I think it went all right. And the next time should definitely be a lot better. But if you've missed any of the other videos in this series to figure out how I even got here, be sure to check out this video. Either way, thank you for hanging out with me. I'll catch you next time. So depending on where you live and what kind of roof you built and what kind of material you're gonna use and what kind of tortilla, what kind of tortilla video. We're at a point now where we can start putting on trim.